is up, guys? EJ here, back with another video, and today it's going to be my weekly movie review roundup, episode 12. So yeah, I got 6 new movies to talk about from this past week. Starting off with last Sunday, February 14th, I watched The Visit. Written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Of course, known director for his twisty thrillers like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs. These really great films that he made early on back in the day. Obviously, he hasn't had much success lately. I like The Village for the most part. Did not care for The Lady in the Water or The Happening. He produced Devil, which I kind of dug. The elevator devil movie. But yeah, this film, The Visit, sort of an okay flick. It's about a mother played by Catherine Hahn whose 2 young kids. She has a daughter and a son. Have never met their grandparents, so they want to go spend the week with their grandparents. And the reason they've never met them is because a long time ago, when their mom, Catherine Hahn, left home, she had a big fight with her parents, and so she hasn't spoken to them in years, and therefore her kids have never met them. So yeah, the two kids go off to the grandparents' house, of course. The daughter is played by Olivia de Jong. Becca, she fancies herself as a documentary filmmaker, and she's going to document everything that happens there. And the younger son, Tyler, played by Ed Oxenbould, fancies himself as a rapper. So there's a couple of funny scenes where he's just coming up with rhymes on the spot. Not great. So yeah, they go visit their grandparents, who seem like a sweet elderly couple at first, a little eccentric, but then the 2 kids start witnessing the grandparents act very strangely, especially at night. The grandmother sort of runs around after 9:30 p.m. Everything happens after 9:30. Running around in her nightgown, scratching doors and crawling along the floor and carrying knives and all that kind of stuff. So as the week goes on, they get continually weirded out by their grandparents, and by day 5, they're ready to go home. And of course, being a M. Night Shyamalan film, there's a twist at the end, which I won't get into. But yeah, it wasn't really that scary. The twist was interesting. I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't expect that. But yeah, so not a great film. Certainly not one of Shyamalan's best, but not as bad as, say, The Happening or The Lady in the Water. So The Visit, I gave a 6 out of 10. Okay, moving on to Tuesday. I believe I skipped Monday because of the holiday. I didn't get any Netflix on that day. So yeah, Tuesday the 16th of February, I watched Pan. The new Peter Pan film, directed by Joe White, of course, based on the novel by J. M. Barrie. We've had multiple Peter Pan films, of course. The 1953 Disney classic Hook from 1991, and I like the 2003 version Peter Pan. This one, not so much. Levi Miller plays Peter, and the film starts off during World War II. He's a young kid living in a orphanage in London during the Blitz, and that's run by like mean, nasty nuns. And one day he gets whisked away by these pirates to the magical place of Neverland aboard a flying pirate ship. And there he discovers that all of these kids have been put to work in mines, mining for this gemstone, this precious gem mineral or some kind. and they've been put to work by the pirate Blackbeard, played by Hugh Jackman, who's almost unrecognizable throughout the movie. And for some odd reason, there's a couple scenes where they break into modern versions of songs of modern songs. Um, so yeah, what's his name? Peter starts to defy Blackbeard because he's not very nice, and he becomes friend with Garrett Hedlund, who plays Hook, who would eventually, of course, become Captain Hook. And he goes off to rescue the fairy people, whatever the hell they are, and they're sort of led by a king, and his daughter is called Tiger Lily, played by Rooney Mara. I did not really care for this Peter Pan movie as far as the Pan movies go. We already have, like I said, 3 fairly decent Peter Pan movies as it is. Yeah, this is more about how Peter becomes Peter Pan. There's a whole thing with his little pan flute necklace that he has. Yeah, and it's more about how his friendship with Hook, how they eventually would turn into enemies. So it has some good visual effects, and Hugh Jackman really sells it as Blackbeard, but overall I didn't really care for it that much. Still, it wasn't terrible. I didn't hate it. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Alright, moving on to Wednesday, February 17th. I watched Everest, directed by Baltazar Kormakur. Yeah, really a man versus nature film, a disaster film if you like. Film is based on a true story set in 1986, where Jason Clarke leads a group of mountaineering enthusiasts to climb Mount Everest, the highest peak, of course, in the world. Yeah, the tagline of the movie is "Human beings aren't meant to survive at the cruising altitude of a 747. I believe Everest is over 29,000 feet. And still rising, apparently. Yeah, good film. Not really, there's no real good guys or bad guys. It's a man versus nature film, like I said. Good cast, people like Josh Brolin, Keira Knightley, Jake Gyllenhaal, Emily Watson, what's his name? I just forget the actor's name. John Hawkes, he's in it as well. Yeah, really interesting. I'm not really a climber or a hiker or any of that kind of thing, but my roommate and my sister are. They like hiking and rock climbing, that kind of stuff. So it's a film certainly for them. But yeah, good movie. Interestingly enough, the film is really more about getting down from the peak of Everest than getting up there, because yeah, the team go to Kathmandu, of course, in Nepal, and they set off for Everest Base Camp, which is I think at like 12,000 feet. That's what good thing the film does throughout the movie, is tell you what elevation they're at each point, and there they meet a whole bunch of other people who are apparently people pay big money back in the day, or back in the mid-90s, to these experts, mountaineering experts, to take them up these tall peaks. And of course Mount Everest is the pinnacle of anybody's climbing career, following in the footsteps of Sir Edmund Hillary and people like that. So yeah, and then from there they have to spend several months climatizing their bodies to the environment, to the altitude, because of course at that altitude oxygen, the thin air is really hard on the body, makes people sick. So they have to spend a couple of months training, going up and down sort of in stages, to get used to it. And there's other levels of camps further up the mountain. There's like Camp 1, Camp 2, and Camp 3, and they do this in the run-up to their final ascent, which takes place like in summer, when the weather is supposed to be pretty stable. May 10th, I believe, is their final ascent. and most of them get up to the top, um, struggling to do so. But once they get up there, it's almost impossible to get back down because they've used so much energy and they have very little oxygen left. They have to use the help of oxygen tanks as it is. But getting back down, they just don't have the strength and the resources to do it. And then they get hit by a big storm in the mountains, which makes things a lot worse. A lot of them do not make it, and it's pretty rough to watch when people don't make it. People just curl up on the ground and freeze to death. Famously, people who die trying to scale Mount Everest, the bodies are left up there because there's no way of getting them down. They try flying in helicopters, but the copters won't work at that altitude either. So yeah, it's a good film, really stunning visuals. Probably would have been a great movie to watch on the big screen in an IMAX show. So Everest, I gave a 7 out of 10. Alright, moving on to February 18th, Thursday, I watched Straight Outta Compton. Yeah, really terrific film about the seminal hip-hop group from the late 80s, NWA, led by the main three founding members, um, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube. Yeah, sort of put an end to the fun-loving style of the 80s hip-hop scene and brought to the forefront rap hip-hop about the mean streets, about the hood, gangster rap if you like. Of course, these guys all dressed in black for the most part, wore Raiders gear, and were proud to do so. Yeah, really good film. Terrific cast, I thought. O'Shea Jackson Jr., who plays Ice Cube, who's Ice Cube's real son, was terrific, emulating his father. Um, Corey Hawkins plays Andre Young, Dr. Dre, and Jason Mitchell was really good as Eric Wright, aka Eazy-E. So yeah, the film really starts off with the formation of the group. Eazy-E, he's a drug dealer, crack dealer. He teams up with a music manager, Jerry Heller, played by Paul Giamatti, who's great in the movie as well. And Paul Giamatti runs Ruthless Records, and they sign with Ruthless Records, and of course they make their debut album, Straight Outta Compton. Dr. Dre, of course, he's the one who does the DJing. Ice Cube provides most of the lyrics, the songs, but the three of them together created some of the most, the greatest hip hop songs of that time. Of course, F the Police caused a huge rift with the police. They already had a bad relationship in Compton and those neighborhoods in Los Angeles at the time as it was. Police would just harass them and detain them for no apparent reason, just for being black, basically. There's even a scene while they're making the album, they step outside the studio and the cops roll up on them and put them all on the ground, and Paul Giamatti is like disgusted by the whole scene. Yeah, Express Yourself, great song as well, and the title track, Straight Outta Compton. All great songs. The music in this movie is fantastic. But from there on, it sort of goes into how their fame gets pretty big pretty quick, and then that causes a big rift within the group. There's a lot of fighting over money and contracts. Seems like Eazy-E and Jerry Heller have this deal in place while Ice Cube and Dr. Dre are getting screwed. So Ice Cube sort of goes off to his solo career, which is terrific as well. Dr. Dre eventually would break away with Suge Knight, with Death Row Records, and of course he would team up with Snoop Dogg, and make his great album, The Chronic, in 1992. So that part is covered in the movie, and It also goes into Easy's short, but his battle with HIV and AIDS, which he passes away from back then as well. There's also parts where the sort of confrontation with the police, how that's involved with the Rodney King beating and the LA riots, all that kind of good stuff. So there's a whole sort of um, amalgamation of all things hip hop at that time, and social commentary on their situation, how they were perceived by the media. But it's really about these three main guys. Like I said, O'Shea Jackson's terrific as Ice Cube. I really liked Corey Hawkins as well, and the guy who plays Easy is fantastic. Um, yeah, and Paul Giamatti, he's a real slime ball, just like he was as the doctor in the film about the Beach Boys that I saw as well. I forget the name of it already. Um, Love and Mercy. Yeah, he was really good as a slimy doctor in that film, and here he is as a slimy music manager, screwing everybody out of their money, especially Ice Cube, who doesn't take kindly to it. But yeah, he has a long-standing friendship with Eazy, and that causes a rift in the group. And of course, the other two go on to bigger and better things. Yeah, Ice Cube. There's a good right at the end of the movie. It sort of shows um, what they did afterwards. Ice Cube, of course, became a successful actor. There's no other way to put it. And Dr. Dre as a producer as well, producing people like Eminem, that kind of stuff. So yes, if you love late 80s, 90s hip hop, it's a great movie. The music is fantastic. It's a long film as well. It's almost 2.5 hours long, but I didn't mind it at all. I was really looking forward to seeing it. Straight out of Compton. Rap and hip hop has never been my first love when it comes to music, but I do like the songs in this movie, and going over the history of that I grew up watching in the early 90s when I first moved here. All the stuff on MTV that I saw involving hip hop. There's a little bit of East Coast, West Coast thing as well. There's a little appearance by Tupac, all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, just a really good film. Some of the quote like gang violence is played down a bit, which I appreciated. There's a good scene at the opening of the movie with Eazy while he's slinging dope, while he's dealing crack. That's a good scene, and then it springs into all the music stuff, and that was all the stuff I was really interested in. But the film is a lot about money and contracts and infighting in between. But terrific movie. Straight out of Compton, I gave a 8 out of 10. Alright guys, moving on to Friday, February 20th, I watched Mistress America, written and directed by Noah Baumbach, and co-written by Greta Gerwig. Of course, same team who brought us Francis Ha, which I have on Criterion. Yeah, not as good as that movie. Lola Kirk plays Tracy. She's a young college student in New York who learns that her mother is remarrying, and she's never met the soon-to-be stepfather's daughter, who's older than her, who's played by Greta Gerwig. So one night, her mother suggests that hey, hook up with your soon-to-be stepsister in New York and get to know each other before the wedding, because the wedding is going to take place over Thanksgiving. So yeah, she's sort of a shy girl, this Tracy. So she calls up Greta Gerwig, and they meet in Times Square, and they hang out. They have a fun night together. They talk very. There's a lot of snappy, witty dialogue in this movie. It's about sort of young 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds living in New York, living it up. They're very opinionated. There's a lot of, yeah, it's a movie with fun dialogue. It's sort of a slice of life movie with quirky characters. I've always liked Greta Gerwig. She's a good writer, and she's a good actress. So she's loads of fun. She's sort of this wreck of a woman. She doesn't finish anything. She's in the process of trying to get a restaurant started, and she's in the process of trying to get money, investors for her restaurant, which is going to be sort of a grocery store, and they're going to cut hair in the back, and there's all these crazy things going on, and they're hanging out, having fun, and young Tracy, she just likes hanging out with her. She thinks she's really cool. And she just doesn't want to go back to school, go back to her home. She's like, yeah, can I just crash at your place all the time? And at one point, the two of them, uh, the girl Tracy, she's a writer, and she wants to get into the lit society in her college. So she writes little short stories. There's this guy who's in the society that she's kind of into, but he has a girlfriend who's very jealous. This girl called Nicolette, who's always thinking that he's hitting on other girls and other girls are hitting on him. So there's good sort of repartee, if you like, with the three of them. And the four of them all drive up to like the Hamptons or whatever to go visit one of Greta Gerwig's old high school friends or enemies, rivals, who's married to some guy that she stole from her or something like that. So she wants to go get money from this guy. He's a rich dude, and they go to this woman's house, and there's all kind of crazy things going on in this house. They're having some sort of weird pregnant ladies tea party thing, and there's one woman who's waiting for her husband to pick her up, and she's there while all this craziness is going on around her. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a fun scene in that nice house. All these people in this house, like, and there's all this kind of crazy shit going on. And Greta Gerwig is trying to pitch her idea of how to get money for this restaurant to this rich husband. It's not a great film. I didn't like it as much as Frances Ha. I like that film a lot more than this movie. So Mistress America, I gave a 6 out of 10. Alright guys, moving on. As I take a drink of Mountain Dew in between, we come to last night, February 28th. I watched The Green Inferno. Eli Roth, The Green Inferno, written and directed, of course, by Eli Roth. His ode to cannibal holocaust, if you like. A horror film about a bunch of student activists. This young girl, Justine, played by Luenza Izzo, decides there's a girl she fancies, and he's outside her dorm room protesting some shit, and she wants to join up. She sees this lecture in class about how women around the world in third world countries, there's genital mutilation done on females in countries in Asia and Africa and South America. So she wants to join this group who are going to travel down to the Amazon, the Peruvian Amazon, to stop loggers, developers from bulldozing the forest, which is encroaching on a native village, a native land that's lived in by a tribe called the Yarez or Yawez. So she goes down there with these activists. They all sort of plan this coup, if you like, where they all dress up in in jumpsuits and put on masks, and they're gonna use their phones to film the whole thing and stop the bulldozing, the logging, and put it on the internet, get this story out to the world, and tell people what's going on. And they're successful. They run up on the clearing, and these guys working in the forest, they're escorted by a militia with guns, so the whole thing's very dangerous. They're all, oh, there's gonna be guns? Yeah, and the guys all, yeah, our guns will be our phones. It's that kind of that kind of movie. So you think, okay, they're successful. So they get in the plane and fly out of there. But their plane, of course, malfunctions and they crash in the jungle. And then, of course, they run into the Yares tribe. They get captured or killed by the Yares tribe, who, of course, flesh eating cannibals covered in either blood or red paint. I'm not sure. I like to think it was blood because their skin is like really red and they have black hair, bowl cuts, but their skin is like really red. So I'm guessing it's been soaked in blood um, all these years. And there's poles with skulls sticking out and all that kind of stuff. And they capture a few of them who don't die in the airplane crash. And they feed one guy, put a whole bunch in a cage, and the one guy they feed with some water, some type of liquid. They put him on a slab of rock and start cutting him to pieces. The main woman, the head of the tribe, this witch, whatever she is, she's got like bones coming out of her nose, and her skin's a little yellowish, and she has this main dude next to her who's like black and yellow and has stuff coming out of his nose and all that kind of good stuff. And then they start cutting up this dude, cutting off his tongue and eating it, and cutting off his limbs, and then he gets put in a little hut where they're gonna cook his body, and everybody's gonna feast. So yeah, it gets pretty real, pretty quick in this film. The Green Inferno. Yeah, and it's the rest of these activists trying to survive, trying to figure out how the hell they're gonna get out of there without catching a blow dart in the neck or being eaten alive as they as they run for help. Yeah, it's a good looking film, but that's part of the problem is it's so vivid and clear, a lot of the movie, that you really see a lot of the bloodshed and the eating of flesh close up. I mean, when they tear that guy apart at the beginning, it's pretty tough to watch. I gotta say, and he's screaming and he's left with nothing but a bloody pulp of his torso by the end of it. And then the rest of them, one girl is like, I've had it with this shit. They give her some food or some water, and she looks in the bowl and it's like made out of skin and stuff. So she like breaks it and it breaks, and so she just like cuts her own throat because she doesn't want to be eaten. She just wants to end it. Yeah, and the main girl, they're gonna perform the genital mutilation on her eventually, so they paint her up in some of this white paint, and they turn her into like a warrior-looking princess. Um, I mean, it's not a great film, and it does have shades of Cannibal Holocaust. If you like these type of movies, I'm sure you will enjoy this one. It does have some moments, but it gets pretty repetitive after a while. Um, there is one moment where one girl escapes and she like jumps in the boat, and then we never hear from her again. We have no idea what even happens to her. There's like a weird shot of her lying in the boat right as she jumps in, and then it cuts away, and then we have no idea what happened. Does she get away? Does she get caught? Does she get eaten? Does she die in the river? I have no idea what happened to that girl who ran away and seemingly gets away. And then the end of the film, there's a really unnecessary scene which I did not care for at all. There's the main dude who's kind of a dick throughout the whole movie, and they leave him behind at the end of the film, and you're kind of glad that they did, because, like I said, he was a complete asshole throughout the movie. But then there's this sort of dream sequence when the girl survives and gets back, whatever. And there's this weird moment where she runs into him in the hall. Says, "Hey, look, I made it back," and she like turns into some weird creature, and her teeth all get real sharp, and she takes a bite out of his neck. That scene I thought was completely unnecessary. But overall, if you like cannibal movies, and I'm sure I know a lot of the hardcore horror community do. So yeah, if you like cannibal movies and Eli Roth films, then this is a pretty gnarly offering, and I sort of enjoyed it, didn't love it. So the Green Inferno I gave a 6 out of 10 as well. So that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. As always, let me know if you what you think of these movies, if you've seen them as well. And until next time, I'll see you.
Bond. James Bond.